Radio WRNR studios. It's time for Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob Mario and David Welch.
Thank you, Cliff Maxwell. Good morning and welcome into the program. The Friday edition of the show brought to you in our first segment by the law offices of Hammer, Ferretti, and Schiavone, delivering first-rate service and results for our clients. Hammer, Ferretti, and Schiavone, the Ferretti part of that, Joe Ferretti, a frequent substitute co-host on this program. He will not be on the program today, however, as previous commitments have prevented him from doing that, and the Hammer part of that firm will soon become Judge Hammer.
All of that, all of the above is true.
Were it not, I couldn't say it factually.
So that does not fall into the David Welch Weekly Fake News Report, because all of that was true.
That may be the first thing this week.
Might be. It just might be. Happy Friday to you. The political crew is in today. We've got Jason Barrett, Mike Caryl, the left and the right, and then we got Sammi Brown coming in. And if there's any questions about a candidate coming in on the political show, keep in mind that we can do that up until 60 days before the election. And always, if someone wants to have equal time to someone else, like Jason's opponent, they're certainly, welcome to, not equal time, but, come in and talk as well. So it's an open forum. I need to tell you what happened to me yesterday before we get to our guest, our very important guest this morning, because it's just on my mind and I need to get it out. But there was a traffic jam on I-270 yesterday prior to the weather. The weather then compounded it.
Sure.
And it was the worst trip ever. I live 62 miles from where my office is in Rockville to home. Now, I don't do that every day, but when I do it and when I go into the office, it's a 62-mile drive. When I leave here at 10 and go to that office, it takes me an hour and 10 minutes. When I come home, even in the thick of traffic, normally it's an hour and 40 minutes. Last night, to go those 62 miles took me 4 hours and 20 minutes.
Ugh.
4 hours and 20 minutes to go 62 miles. It was just a dead, I-270 was literally a parking lot at times. That's all it was. You could have turned off your engine. And it was so far ahead, somewhere up in the Frederick exchange between 70 and 270. I don't know exactly where, because at Route 109, they made everybody get off. That was one of the reasons you had the traffic jam. Everyone had to get off. So I get off at 109, and then I go the other way, opposite way most people were going, towards Sugarloaf Mountain, over Sugarloaf Mountain.
That's Clarksburg exit, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And then ended up at Points of Rocks, and then, blah, 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 into the back way. 4 hours and 20 minute drive to go 62 miles.
What time did you get home?
I got home, I left at 4:15. I got home at 8:40, I guess, somewhere. I mean, it was whatever, 4 hours, 8:35. So
I've
it was
been
a
there.
very, very...
I don't miss that.
That was the longest of the Washington, D.C. back to West Virginia commutes that I have ever experienced in the 30 years I've been going back and forth. That's the longest one, I believe. I don't think, even in a snowstorm, I think I've made better time than that.
Did you see the accident site? Do you have any?
No, I never did. And as I sit here today, I should have looked it up today out of curiosity, but I did not do that. Daughter Laura also came in from Leesburg last night. I don't know how long it took her. It might have taken her 2.5 hours. There was some kind of flooding in the road on Route 9.
Oh, we've had a lot of flooding in a lot of parts.
Yes.
Heck of a storm came through yesterday. And Eddie Gochenour, the Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management in Berkeley County, is our guest right now, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center Talk Line. Eddie, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. It's a beautiful morning, Dave. I'm sure that 4-hour trip was well worth it to get back into the Panhandle.
Well, put it this way, Eddie. It's always like a reward to get back home. I tell that to people all the time. It's like going on vacation every day I go into Washington. I'm going on vacation, at least for a night now. But I did thoroughly get caught up on the news. I must say that. listening to all the satellite news programs on the way back.
4 hours to let that sink in.
Yeah.
Eddie, I had a listener, Roy, text me and say that we have a sinkhole over on Tuscarora Pike. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's between Thatcher Road and Arden-Allville Road. Had an opening there yesterday, and I spoke with the supervisor from the Department of Highways, Joe Castaldo, and he told me it's about 30 feet deep, and he's waiting to get some heavy equipment in there to start digging down to try to get to some bedrock before they can start refilling it back, with rock, larger rock.
30 feet, my good, that's deep.
Yes, it is.
That's like 3 swimming pools deep.
Yeah, and it was like 2 feet off the edge of the shoulder. So they're concerned that perhaps it went back underneath of the road. So they won't know until they get working a little bit more today.
How wide is it, Eddie?
I don't know. I haven't been able to make it out there, but I just remember Joe telling me it's about 30 feet deep.
Have we ever had a sinkhole open up over in that area before?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I know we've had it on Route 9 or 45 there where they kind of come together, but I'm not aware of any out on Tuscarora Pike.
Do you know what causes a sinkhole to form?
Well, I really don't. I know that our crevice, or I think that's the correct word, just where our underground is with the large amount of limestone rock and crevice type topography, really, I guess, is. But when you've got underground streams that run, and it could have opened something up, I really don't know. That's not quite my deal.
You need to save that question for Bonnie Stubblefield.
Absolutely.
She would know.
Eddie, quick to pawn it off to Bonnie Stubblefield.
She would know.
Bonnie just found out how little I know about that.
Bonnie, if you're listening, call us at 263-6586 and tell us how a sinkhole forms. That'd be interesting. Or Bill, if she's around, go get her. I don't know. We need her expertise in this one. Eddie, what other roads are affected this morning?
Well, we have a road up in Glenwood Forest on Myrtle Drive that was taken out. A portion of it was taken out yesterday due to the flooding. The culverts up there were just not large enough to be able to handle it, and it washed out a portion of that roadway. But honestly, other than those two areas, we're in pretty good shape.
And I also saw a report yesterday of power lines that were down. Were you aware of that at all? Was that was that accurate?
Well, I mean, we had numerous power lines down in the city of Martinsburg. They had what I'm going to call, once again, I'm not a weather expert, but more of a microburst type of storm that went through there, toppled numerous amounts of large trees, power lines broken, poles broken. But as of this morning, there were only 3 residents still without power, and they were anticipating getting power back to them by later this morning. So, there was about a 2 or 3, 4 block area off of West King that was really hit hard yesterday evening.
All right. Well, as far as you know, were there any injuries from any of the road situations or the floods, Eddie?
No, there are no injuries that I'm aware of. And like I say, other than Tuscarora Pike and Myrtle Drive up in Glenwood, to my knowledge, everything is in pretty good shape. It's another beautiful morning.
And sorry if I missed this. I may have, but just one last time. Motorists are able to go through the area. Is that right?
No, Tuscarora Pike is closed down.
They are closed down. So, okay, I got that.
Yeah.
Then. Yep.
Yes.
And Myrtle Drive, Joe told me that they closed it down. And there's not a whole lot of traffic on that road anyway. They were just concerned about people making a mistake or so they're up there working. They should have it fixed, by sometime early this morning. So it shouldn't be that large of an inconvenience.
Eddie, thanks so much for your time this morning, man. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, just kind of, I think a little overdid my ankle a little bit yesterday, but other than that, we're good. And yeah, we're good shape.
All right, so you keep mending, dude.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day. Bye.
Eddie Gochenour. He is the Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management in Berkeley County, appearing courtesy of the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line.
And always willing to come on at a moment's notice and give our listeners an update on what's going on. We certainly appreciate that.
And playing hurt today, too, I might add.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, if you don't subscribe to I think it's called the Swift 911 service, where you get texts based on things that are going on. Alert Berkeley, it'll show up on your phone as a number code, and Alert Berkeley. Tuscarora Pike in Martinsburg closed between the intersections of Arden-Knowlville Road and Thatcher Road due to the sinkhole. That's just what Eddie was covering. But that would also come to your phone, so if you had that on your phone, you would know don't go in that area ahead of time, as opposed to going in a direction where you'll ultimately be stopped and turned around.
Have you ever seen those pictures of those sinkholes, like where a whole house falls through it?
Sure.
That is amazing. Sinkholes are common where the rock below the land surface is limestone or other carbonate rock, salt beds, or in other soluble rocks such as gypsum that can be dissolved naturally by circulating groundwater. Sinkholes also occur in sandstone and quartzite terrains. I just looked that up and in part answer your question as to what causes them. It doesn't necessarily say what causes them, but it does tell you where they...
The thing is, you handled that
happened.
so adroitly, I couldn't even tell you were reading it. It sounded like you had for years studied that as it rolled off your tongue so smoothly that I actually believed you were an expert on the source until you told me you looked it up.
I think, Rob, that there are certain talents that people don't understand in being a radio talk show host.
Sure.
And one of them is first of all, to accept that we really don't know very much at all. But we're good at telling you about it, and so
here's what I know.
It's a talent.
I know that
it's not a highly marketable talent, but it's a talent. It's not like being a high-tech guy.
I know the door code to get in here in the morning. I know that much, and everything else after that is gravy.
And then it also says, what's the main cause of sinkholes? And I'm reading this from Wikipedia. Sometimes heavy weight on soft soil can result in collapse of ground, resulting in a sinkhole. Duh. Sinkholes can also form where the land surface is it changed or charged? See these glasses? It's changed. Areas that have a bedrock made of limestone, and we go on. So there you go. That's about all we know about sinkholes.
What is the longest wait you've had? Yesterday it took you over 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the worst that you can remember being in? I'll share mine after you scour your brain here a little bit.
No, it's not the worst. There was 30 years or so ago, I was driving through Central California, and in what they call Thule fog. Thule means ground, so it's ground fog, and it becomes so thick through the Central Valley, not the coastal areas or the areas in California that most tourists would think about, but that broad, vast Central Valley. And the fog will come in there, and it will settle, and it won't be particularly high. If you were flying over it, it would just it'd be blue skies, maybe 20 feet above, but on the ground it's really thick. And what happens is that more frequently than you might like to think, you'll have big car pileups because you can't see the car in front of you.
Sure.
So a car will slow down, and then you have a chain reaction, and you have multiple car accidents. You're just driving along at a reasonable speed, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, and boom, you're just right on somebody. So I got caught. I wasn't hit, but I got caught in a long traffic jam. And I think that we were, my memory serves me right, got out of the car and just hung around by the side of the road till the fog cleared around, later in the day. But it was about 7 hours. It was a whole day.
Here's the thing that I've noticed lately.
Although we were able to get out of the car.
That's a plus.
Yeah.
And I don't know why this is something that's happening more so now than it used to. But it's almost a refusal of people to use their headlights in fog or in the dark.
What?
I'm not kidding you.
Most cars, they go on automatically now if they were built after,
On most.
2010 or something.
On most, you'll at least get some daytime running lights that come on as soon as you start the car, right? And you can't turn them off if you want to, at least not on your dashboard. So this is what I'm seeing more and more of. People will not use their headlights when it's foggy. And when you ask them about it, it's not going to make me see any better. You're missing the point.
Yeah, you are.
The headlights
You are missing the point.
help people see you. Okay?
Yeah.
They help people see you. So that's why you put your headlights on during
And at what
a
level?
foggy situation.
At what level of education do you think you'd need to achieve to figure that out?
It's when you take your driving lessons and pass your test, it's part of the exam.
Yeah, but you might miss that one because you can miss like 5, right?
You can miss it depending on how many times you've
But
taken
then,
it.
but then when they grade it, you would know.
I got that one
I
wrong.
got that one wrong, so I better correct that one.
And then I'm actually seeing people at night driving around without headlights. And I don't even, not even like the parking lights or whatever, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're not quite headlights.
Right.
I'm talking about no lights at all.
That's crazy.
Now, that's a violation. You get a ticket for that.
Now, I haven't noticed that so
I have.
much.
And I don't know why that's becoming the thing to do now. but I'm seeing it more and more.
So what do you want to say to all of the people who are listening to our show and who drive and who might have the occasion to get on a drive when it might be foggy or a little dark? Would you like to send them a message?
I would say turn your lights on.
There you go.
Right?
Okay. Do you feel better now?
I'm just saying turn your lights on. Now,
we'll just write that down as a public service announcement from Rob
Turn
Marion.
your headlights on when it's foggy or dark.
And wear your life jacket when you're in the river.
Part 2 of and put your band around your glasses.
There you go.
Or you're not going to be able to see when you come in.
Yeah, I got scolded by a friend for that.
People will make old man jokes at you.
Yeah, they will.
Part 2 of this, it's a mini rant, is the turn signal. Okay? I suggest, with the price of cars going up as
now,
they
this is
are,
on Rob Mario's official pet peeve list, I think.
This is big.
Yeah.
All right? As I said, car prices are going up. And one of the ways we can combat car prices going up is that we can just rip turn signals off the cars because nobody uses them anymore. Nobody uses their turn signals, so let's just rip them out of the car so we can save whatever price it is that cars cost that the turn signal adds to it. If we're not going to use the turn signals, let's not have to pay for them. Because I can tell you this much as a person who drives as much as I do, and I drive at least 2 hours every day.
I drive about three or 4 days a week. So yeah, I'm up there.
And when my son was doing his PT at the hospital on a regular basis, I was driving 4 hours a day, okay? Conservative estimate, 75% of the people out there, no turn signals. And it doesn't matter how sharply or how quickly they're about to turn, not putting them on. Also, get rid of the side view mirrors because apparently nobody's using those either, based on the fact that I almost every day almost get run off the road, someone switching lanes who obviously hasn't checked.
I'm starting to like this. Car prices could go down a few $100s if we adhered to those rules. And where I noticed the turn signal, may I interject?
Please.
Where I noticed your point about the turn signal the most, every day when I come to work here, I'm pulling out of Greensburg Road and making a right on 45. And I get there, as I've talked many times before, right about the time where there's a certain school right there at that intersection. It's
Faith.
Faith Christian Academy. God bless them. They are getting ready for school at 8 o'clock. And so you have people coming in from the Shepherdstown, Jefferson County direction. And I have to sit there and wait, if I'm the first car to turn right, not knowing if they're going to turn right or not.
Hold on a second, Dave. Sammy, that marker that you brought in here is killing me.
I got to see it. Let me see it. No, look.
It's
the smell.
The smell of that marker is toxic. Do you smell that? It's
I
like
do smell it.
overtaking the room. I'm getting stoned over here.
See, I like it, though. I'm feeling good. I'm in a better mood already.
As a SoCal, you would be used
sure,
to it.
yeah. Give me some bean sprouts, baby.
I am dying over here. I feel like I'm doing some huffing on my free time. Go ahead, Dave.
Just if you're not watching on television, one of our guests on the guest panel today is Sammi Brown. And Sammi got here early, and she has walked into the studio and with a sign and a magic marker, and she has put her name on Jason's chair and said, "That's Sammi," and it says Sammi right there
with a smiley face.
I think see. This is what I've been talking about: the split in the Democratic Party.
Jason's has a frowny face.
This is it. This is the split of the Democratic Party that's going on, and it's. Yeah,
we got a call I want to take.
Okay.
So before you finish your story here, Fred
I'm done.
is on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Fred, good morning to you.
Good morning. How we doing, gentlemen?
Awesome possum, buddy. What's on your mind?
Hey, you're sitting there talking about all this turn signals and everything else. I tell you, It is getting worse.
Thank you.
I don't know where people think you can read their mind when they're, with traffic flow and all, but I think the biggest thing that really gets me is when it's raining, you never see the headlights either.
Right.
And it's just mind-boggling.
I agree. Fred, you and I are on the same team here.
Yeah, but I basically called in. I had something that's been on my mind all week.
Okay.
And it was earlier in the week you had interviewed a gentleman, I think he was Constitution or someone, the PACs.
Yeah, that would have been Chris Sanders, I think you're talking about.
Yeah, he was upset about Dave turning around saying it was a good strategy to change your voter registration.
Yes, that's right. I'll frame this up real quickly.
Jane Tabb.
It was the Jane Tabb race, and I said, I asked him, he made the comment that Jane Tabb only won that race because she got 200 or so Democrats to switch over to independents and vote in the Republican primary. And I said to Chris, that sounds like brilliant strategy to me. And he said, brilliant strategy, but unethical.
Well, the thing of it is if an individual wants to change what they're voting for, how is that unethical? Basically, I had a lot of friends change because the tickets in West Virginia for the primary, it's just like 2 years ago when we had, 11 or 12 running for sheriff, and it was only on the Republican ticket.
Right.
It gives you an opportunity to vote. I think it's more unethical that these PACs are turning around, and that gentleman also said that they did some negative ads against one of the candidates for senator.
That's exactly right. I think I made that point, Fred, as well. And I mean, it's perfectly legal, and you can call it brilliant strategy. But I am on record as saying a lot that I think it's highly unethical for a political action committee, let's say a Democratic political action committee, but I could use the Republican to come in and campaign in the Republican primary so as to affect the outcome of that primary, so they can have an easier candidate to run against in the general election. And that occurred in this last U.S. Senate primary on the Republican side. Alex Mooney on the Republican side, it should be said, also did that 2 years ago by sending out mailers in the Democratic primary to help assure that Delegate Hunt would win the primary and not Corey Simpson, who most people, including Alex, perceived as a tougher opponent in the general election. Perfectly legal. I call it unethical.
Well, but, the thing of it is, I guess it's a change of the voter's registration. And, by the way, guys, I'm going to give this Fred up. It's Tom.
Yeah, I was going to say the voice was familiar. The name was not.
But Wilma needs to talk to me, so.
Hey, did you see you got topped by Tim Murphy and his wife Esther? God. 60 years?
I've met Tim this past year, and there's no way that man's been married 60 years. He's not that old.
Yeah, that Marine Corps life kept him young, buddy.
He got married at 11.
Tom, thanks for the call. We got to run to the news. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Tom Johnson and his wife Harriet, 35 years. I think Monday was their anniversary.
That would mean they are now in their 36th year of marriage.
Hey, it's 8:31. Our news break is next. The crew joins us out of that.
Knowing when to freeze and when to run.
CBS News Special Report. The May Jobs Report has just been released. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger. How'd we do?
This was a better than expected report. In the month of May, we created 223,000 jobs, and we saw the unemployment rate. It ticked down to 3.8%. Boy, that is the lowest number in nearly 2 decades. We also saw positive revisions to the previous month, so an extra 15,000 jobs added.
Jill, what about wages?
When it comes to wages, we saw an annual increase of 2.7% from a year ago. And what's interesting about that is that is inching up towards this sort of magic number that economists have been looking for. They're really hoping to see wages increase by up to 3%. 2.7, a solid number. Overall, a very good report.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger. Again, the unemployment rate down just a tick at 3.8%. CBS News Special Report.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Police found the SUV on its roof down a steep embankment off Giles Mill Road in Inwood Wednesday afternoon, and 3 people had to be hospitalized as a result. One of them had been thrown from the vehicle. They're still investigating. It could either be home confinement or a decade in jail for a Winchester man for causing a head-on collision while driving drunk. Unielkis Noah of Palm Springs, Florida, admitted to the crime, which took place on Interstate 81 in Berkeley County. He'll also have to pay restitution to the victim. Attorney General Patrick Morrisey announcing that a representative from his office will meet one-on-one with Eastern Panhandle residents this month to discuss consumer-related issues and answer any questions. Kenneth Petrie, a consumer outreach and compliance specialist, will host the events, all of which will be from noon until 1. The mobile office will be held at the Berkeley County Senior Center in Martinsburg this coming Monday, and the Morgan County Senior and Family Services in Berkeley Springs the Monday after. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We've got a summery southerly wind flow and temperatures well above average to kick off the month of June. Showers and thundershowers in the forecast too, and maybe some big strong downpours later in the afternoon. The winds coming in from the south and the southwest at light speeds, and our forecast high all the way up to 88 degrees as we catch some breaks in the clouds from time to time here during the day and some partial sunshine, at least for a while. Clouds overnight, showers taper off, especially after midnight with lows in the upper 60s. And then for the day Saturday, a slow-moving cool front, showers and thunder showers in the area all day long pretty much, and a high in the upper 70s. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
In the market for a flooring upgrade, Trips Floor Sanding and Berkeley Fashion Flooring does it all, from hardwood floor restoration to new floor installation, including hardwood, tile, vinyl, laminate, carpet, and the hottest trend in flooring, luxury vinyl tile and luxury vinyl plank. Family owned and operated with over 25 years experience, you can expect excellent customer service. Estimates are free. Call 304-229-7009 or online at tripsfloorsanding.com.
You're doing okay today, but let's take a little trip 5 years into the future. You're faced with funeral expenses for your loved one. You've got paperwork and logistics and scheduling, a lot of hassle. But a little forward thinking now can save you a lot of heartache later. It's easier than you think. We're Brown Funeral Homes, family owned, in business for over 135 years. Think smart, think ahead. Brown Funeral Homes, Martinsburg, Inwood, and Charlestown, Ranson.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport.
We welcome you in to Walsh University. We are in North Canton, Ohio. Turning out to be a beautiful day here in Cleveland, Mississippi. We had rain over. We welcome you back to Hilton Head High School in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Back once again here at Doubleday Field in Cooperstown, New York.
Local sports coverage with Talk Radio WRNR's Matt Miller. There when you can't be.
Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Common Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg.
Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
You might break your hip to the sound that's legit. I come to make a hit.
Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, Friday edition, brought to you in this segment by Miller Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Route 9 east of Martinsburg, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. Davey.
Good morning to you, bud.
So you had your commute from Hades, so to speak, yesterday, 4 hours. I had...
For those of you who are just coming into the show, I told it last half hour that it took me 4 hours and 20 minutes to go from Rockville home last night.
I had one where we, in 92, drove back from Orlando, Florida, and I made it from Orlando to, like, maybe Woodbridge.
Home being Pittsburgh or home being here?
Home being Frederick.
Frederick, okay.
And I made it from...
That's a 14-hour drive from Martinsburg to Orlando. I know that, yeah. About a 13-hour drive.
Well, I made it in about 12 hours, maybe it was 12 hours to Woodbridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get from Woodbridge up 95, then up the Beltway, and then up 270 to my house took another 4 hours. So it took a third of the time to go the last 60 miles than it took to go the first 800. That was the worst. And that was when they were redoing the Beltway a few years back, when it looked like a bomb went off every day around the Virginia side of the Beltway.
Yeah, well, on I-270, it only takes a fender bender to slow it down, for a 2-hour delay. But if you have a major accident, like apparently there was last night, then it's just compounded. And they close that down. There's nowhere to go. And that's why, they were taking everybody off Route 109 last night, which it was just insanity. And I still don't know what happened. But, yeah, Woodbridge to Frederick for 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very long,
and this was
a long damn time.
Dude, this was at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh.
And there wasn't an accident. It was just traffic in Northern Virginia through construction.
Yeah, there were probably some grumpy folks in that car, I would imagine.
I was one of those.
Yes,
folks
you
in
were.
that car.
Were you driving?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think 270 was also under some reconstruction at that point, too, in 92.
Yeah.
Let's say good morning to our folks. Delegate Jason Barrett is here. JB.
Good morning, Rob.
You're sitting in Sammy's chair, you know. She came in and claimed that early. She arrived early and claimed that chair legitimately. She put her name on that chair.
With a smiley face,
Yeah,
might I add.
a smiley face. She couldn't have been more polite.
I must have
you
overlooked
came
it.
in. You just came in and ripped it off like you owned the thing.
Only on Fridays from 8:30 to 10.
Oh, man. The boys' club is real this morning.
Mike Caryl is here as well. Former Tax Commissioner Mike Caryl.
Good morning, folks. I can share my all-time traffic horror.
Yes.
I was in law school and visiting the D.C. area and Thanksgiving break. On the Sunday after Thanksgiving, I'm driving north up I-95 and so forth back into Connecticut and around New York City. The Tappan Zee Bridge where you
Yes.
avoid the Manhattan and you go loop.
Been there.
Most times.
It was a parking lot for 5 hours.
Oh,
unbelievable! Of course, being a novice in terms
and you
of
just have to hope you have a full tank of gas when that happens.
Yeah, in fact, that's the first thing.
And an empty bladder.
That's true.
That's the first thing you look at, right?
5 hours on the Tappan Zee. Sammi Brown, what's your worst commuting nightmare?
Apparently, we got a text about it. What?
It wasn't public. It can be if you want it to be.
That's cool. I passed a school bus, and then I heard about it 6 months later. So I wasn't even immediately, there wasn't immediate repercussions. I didn't even know about it. I was out of town, and I got a phone call. There was so they showed up to the house looking for me.
School. So what are the circumstances here?
I was on Jefferson Avenue, headed home. I live right behind Charlestown Middle School. I was headed home, and I guess I thought the bus was already in motion. I don't know. I mean, I was distracted. There's 5 different things going on in my life and different events, and I don't know. I was about to go around the school bus. I don't think I'm the only person that's ever done that. So
I trust you won't do it again.
Never again. My goodness.
Did you get fined?
I did get fined. Minimum fine, but I got fined.
How much does that cost?
I mean, I think it was $50 plus court fees. So,
Well, you're very fortunate children were not leaving the bus in front and crossing the road. That's a dangerous thing to do.
No babies endangered, and it's just salacious, though. My goodness. I'm a horrible human being.
Well, I would hope that you would never do that again.
Never.
I would. That's a dangerous thing to do.
Ooh.
I think what I hear in Sammi is genuine remorse and the admittance that she made a mistake, and I think that counts for a lot. That's my view.
Steer right into it.
I'm just curious who has so much time on their hands that they just text in about whether somebody had a traffic violation or not.
Well, when you're running for office, though, these things are all brought up during campaigns,
It's
right?
real. It's real.
Right? I mean, this is, if it's part of your past, it gets brought up during a campaign. Barrett, you know that better than anybody else. You're the king of digging stuff up.
That's not true. Only legislative records, so.
Speaking,
Welch is staring you dead eye on that one too.
Yes.
We've said this so many times on the show. He just sit there and be quiet. He has no room to talk on this issue.
Michael,
speaking of legislation,
Is there a statute of limitations?
Not on that end.
It was 1996.
Oh, man. He's reformed since then. He's one of the good guys now.
Oh, that's coming from Sammi. That's good.
I don't know. I've got a bone to pick with you.
What he's talking about is a campaign ad I did against Charlotte Pritt in 1996 that was rather vicious, and he likes to remind me of that.
Oh, I hear about it often.
Yeah.
but that was aired in not just the court of public opinion, but the court of justice, and you prevailed, right, David?
I did. I was exonerated.
There you go.
Well, I didn't say it was illegal. I mean, it's below the belt without question, but it's not illegal.
It was a tough ad. I own it.
Hey, she lost. Your guy won, so evidently it worked.
I guess.
Speaking of legislative records, the state chamber just came out with their rating of the legislature. Although it was a misprint, they said it was the 2016. But they were showing the 2017 and 2018 votes. I guess they do both sessions before they add it up. And the cover memo from the head of the chamber, Steve Roberts, was continuing to lament the degree of partisanship in things that are good for the state as the state chamber sees them. And I noticed that I think our friend Mr. Barrett here got a slightly above 50% ranking, which is they're plenty worse, but I'm currently working on the EPBA's comparable scoring, and we don't have all the same bills as the chamber by any means. and it's the lack
now,
of.
This is your delegate you're talking to, so be respectful.
I am.
Okay.
He's always respectful.
I'm saying what I'm going to say is that it was hard to find. In other words, Robert's concern about all the partisanship and divided votes and so forth was not really what we have. Of course, we have an overwhelmingly Republican delegation, but it took some doing to find bills where there was any variation, including Republican against Republican variation in terms of the Panhandle delegation on votes that were important to business and so forth.
Now, we had a discussion this week with the leader of the organization called Prosperity for America, which is a conservative organization.
Americans for Prosperity, West Virginia.
Americans for Prosperity. And the
Jason Huffman.
The organization. Excuse me, I have the floor right now.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Just trying to help
Mr. Interrupter-in-Chief.
Hold on a second while I let that irony drip off at the walls. It's seeping through like the Amity Horror here for a second.
Anyway, they identified 9 pieces of legislation for their scorecard, conservative pieces of legislation, and Mr. Barrett here did as well as any of the Republicans really in the Eastern Panhandle on that scorecard.
Yeah, I think the only one they hit me for was the film tax
credit. Which Rob and I disagree with them and agree with you.
Well,
on,
it has a big impact in the Eastern Panhandle, and obviously that they don't take that into consideration, and no, they should. I mean, they're basing their things statewide, so that's their opinion.
And it was a 9-5 vote out of our delegation.
Yeah, that was
a
the
very
most divided
vote.
Yeah. Most divided one.
Well, EPBA believes in real tax reform, and that little picking around the edges stuff we don't.
Okay. How many bills do you identify as?
Well, we had potentially. I'm going to say 18, and we just for space limitations, and because they were, some of them were literal no-brainer unanimous votes.
Are they focused on Eastern Panhandle or statewide?
Well, both.
Both. Okay.
But we got it down, I think, to 15 House votes and 16 Senate votes, because there's some where there's just a vote in one House on a bill, and it doesn't come to.
Have you released that scorecard yet?
No, it's being reviewed and approved later today, and will probably be published well before Labor Day.
Oh, okay.
But
can you discuss it on the radio before Labor Day? Would that be something we could talk about?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we can discuss it as soon as it's approved for publication.
Give me an example of like your number one bill on the House side that you identify. What was the key one? Remember on the scorecard?
Well, we did a few things like voting for the budget, and then everybody was in good shape because we wanted to point out that how that played out was a plus as we saw it. The bill, it was just a minor little move money around bill, but where they added the funding, the temporary funding for Mark, we included that. That was a clearly Eastern Panhandle focused bill.
We had a couple of conversations with
Craig Blair too.
West Virginia.
He made the amendment in the Senate. Riley did a good job too.
Americans for Prosperity, is that what it is? Mm-hmm. It's a national organization. This is the state chapter. And we had, and what was his name again?
Jason Huffman.
We had a conversation with him. And also, I think we had a couple of other conversations. And I put this question out to them, and it's just a general sense that I had on these conservative business organizations. They don't score at all how anything to do with the teacher's raise. They don't use that in their scorecard. In other words, and I made the point, if we're talking about jobs and economic development, and you are a conservative or a pro-business organization, shouldn't you be scoring the vote or something related to bettering education? And I might argue that greater teacher salary might be bettering education in West Virginia. None of them are using that legislation as part of their scorecard. Sammi, do you have a thought on that at all?
I mean, that's because it's seemingly not a priority, and it should have been. I've always.
You mean to the business and conservative organizations?
Exactly. So.
But they're arguing. But a big part of their message, though, is improving the economy of West Virginia and making the state more attractive.
The economy should be based on a workforce that's skilled, sober, and accessible, and yet we are not pushing, or at least making at the forefront, that policy that affects those three things is important. I could also argue that an inclusive workforce would be a part of economic development. Amazon wants a non-discrimination policy, and yet conservative or quote-unquote business affiliations are saying that non-discrimination isn't a priority.
Was there legislation, though, that pertained to diversity that was voted on in the legislature this last cycle?
Last cycle.
Okay, so that's not something they could have scored, because I think they only score final votes, right, Mike?
Most of the organizations. That's the way we do it, votes on passage.
Yeah, they don't, Jason, I don't think they score committee votes.
Some organizations will score amendment votes.
Yeah.
So if there's an amendment offered on a bill, where there's a roll call vote, then some organizations will score those as well.
Jason's right. The chamber actually scored their amendment to make the exceptions for the
parking lot.
The parking lot bill, and last year.
That's whether to have a gun in your car or not.
Whether an employer could preclude you having a gun in the parking lot in your car.
There was an amendment to allow exemptions for certain industries, whether it be a chemical plant or someone else. So they scored that vote in it. Yeah, I think it probably only received about 15 votes.
But last year, the chamber, when EPBA, we do it every year. Chamber does it in 2-year cycles because of the way the legislature organized. But we scored the amendment that would have made the passage, the adoption, or the ratification of the roads bond amendment a condition preceding to the imposition of the additional gas taxes. There was a floor vote.
So did
on that.
EPBA put anything related to education in their scorecard?
We the budget.
Right. Exactly.
So
That's very clearly saying that public education isn't a priority. And why is that? Because part of the conservative platform isn't public education.
Is taking money, is downsizing the Department of Education, cutting out the bureaucracy and the red tape? You hear a lot about this on the Republican side, Sammi. Is that improving education? Could that be, you're cutting education, but you're cutting the fat from education, not the classroom part of education. Can you give me an insight on that?
Well, define the fat, though, Dave. Like, what is it exactly that we're trying to cut away from the Department of Education?
I'm not sure. I can't answer that.
Let me volunteer. Let me volunteer, Sammi. The Department of Education is, study after study says it is bloated. We have a top-heavy system. It wastes billions of dollars over time, of course, that should be used for real education improvement. And until your party and the teachers union get behind that, then you're going to have a problem.
My party and the teachers
getting support of the business community.
Mike, you're saying crazy stuff.
David's question was on the mark, and I just filled in the specifics.
Crazy stuff.
It was only a question. That's all it was.
In his inaugural address, Governor Justice stated a fact that compared to the 70s, the head count in the school population is like 40% of what it was then, and the head count in the State Department of Education is tenfold what it was in the 70s. That is bloat.
Okay. Well, let's fix it then, because if that's the case, this is the 4th year that the Republicans have been in charge. They've campaigned on all this, and I'm not disagreeing that some of this goes on in the Department of Education, but to come here and say that it's the Democrats' fault who have an underwhelming majority. I mean, here we are in the minority at 36 members. How are we getting the blame for what the Republicans put on the agenda for? If there is all this bloat in the education department, where are the bills to fix it? And firing Gail Manchin isn't the answer to fixing all of our problems with the Department of Education. So you can't blame teachers unions because they endorse what 30 members of the House. So
and you're going to keep yours for sure.
Maybe
with your
40.
statement.
You're right. You're damn right, because I'm going to stand up for the teachers and public education every chance I get. Give them the raise they deserve. So you're right. I'm going to keep my endorsement. But you're talking about 40 members of the House, maybe, that receive the teachers union endorsement, and somehow they have power over the 60 that don't.
Jason, it took your party over 80 years to...
Oh, my gosh. Mike.
Can I finish?
No, you can't.
All
You're
right.
talking crazy stuff. At this point, like, eat a Snickers, dude. Like, you're saying crazy stuff because you're hungry. I'm telling you that when it comes to this stuff, it has nothing to do with the minority party. And on top of that, your candidates, the ones that you perpetually put up on this show, they're the ones that take pictures with my union teachers. They want the photo op. They want to take credit for the raise. But it was our people that organized and put thousands upon thousands of people in the Capitol, and it's the only reason that a raise happened. It's the only reason that a raise happened.
Well, you stick with that.
I am going to stick with that.
See
Also, I am endorsed by
see how it works out. But I've been around here a little longer than you have.
Just a little.
And the whole reason that
all 80 years of that, I think you're around.
Exactly.
Not the whole 80, but much better part of it. And the whole reason that I became a Republican had nothing to do with Eisenhower, Goldwater, or what was going on at national level at the time I was forming my political opinions. It was what Democrats were doing to this state. And they kept doing it until a few years ago. And Jason's right. There's much more work to be done. But the new Republican majority has achieved a significant degree of tort reform. We've achieved a significant degree of labor reform, and they're continuing to work on. There's much more to be done, and I'm very disappointed in now that we have to claim him, our governor, who had that bold statement in his inaugural address and has done nothing about it. I will agree that the Republicans are to blame for not leading the charge. I say they're also to blame for not having the nerve to do real tax reform. That's, as everybody knows, that's my big issue. But structural governmental reform is as or more important. We need to amend the Constitution, get rid of the whole superintendent of schools system. We need a Department of Education that simply monitors and enforces outcomes, standards based on national, approved, objective, everybody bought in standards, and let the local government, local boards run the schools.
Well, then why hasn't that happened, though, Mike? Like
That's
the
exactly.
conversation.
Why
didn't it happen in the
wait a second.
He's had 4 years.
I think because they maybe because they didn't want to do that for 80 years. Maybe that wasn't their priority. I think Jason. Go back to Jason's question, and this is what I'm hearing. He's asking, not that you represent all 63 Republicans in the House and 23 in the Senate. I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot and say you're the spokesperson for all of them.
You might be, though.
Although you might as well be.
You might be.
They'd all deny that.
I think Jason,
Some more than others.
Jason asks a fair question. And your answer to it is, well, you had 80 years. You had 80 years. You had 80 years. You had 80 years. Jason, I think, and I'm a Republican, so I'm asking this of a Democrat, but I think the question is fair. You've had 4 years. Republicans have had 4 years. If they see things that all of this litany of things that you're looking at, why aren't they acting on? I think Sammy's asking the same thing. And the more important thing is at some point, I'll send this message out to all Republican office holders. At some point, voters are going to start to ask these questions as well, I would think.
Well, there
what the Republicans did this year was to go along with, I'm not saying they led the charge by any means, but to go along with a significant increase in teachers' pay without all the cutting that needed to be done otherwise in terms of the number of, we have too many teachers in this state. We don't have enough in the Eastern Panhandle. We have too many in this state. And
so when they talk about the 700 shortage,
that's so bogus. There were so many of those
Oh
jobs are filled by temps or
so it's bogus when the teachers organization says there's 700. We're short 700 teachers. That's a bogus number. You're saying
yes,
and that's the problem Rob and I often have on this show when we have an expert on education like Dale Lee and an expert on education like Mike Caryl giving us different figures.
Both Dale and I have an ox to grind, and they're the different oxes, obviously, and so I wouldn't call either one of us ultimate experts. I'm just a concerned citizen who's been observing West Virginia government, for 60 years, and I'm just telling you that we need to do more. There's more reform needed, but it did take 80-some years to mess this state up, and we're an island of poverty and a sea of prosperity, and I lay it absolutely at the foot of the big spending government Democrats.
My goodness. Okay, so let's back up to a few points that you made. For one, you said that, basically we're having a mass exodus of educators in the Eastern Panhandle. And the way that we start to bring skilled educators back to the Eastern Panhandle is make sure that they have a competitive wage compared to Maryland, Virginia.
100% agreed with you. Why does it have to be the same rate of pay in Berkeley County that it is in Mingo County? Because
it doesn't. Who says it does?
The teachers make tremendous. Now, the excess levy, for more. But why have a limit? Why have a limit on how much it can be? Give the people a chance.
Okay, so we all agree on that.
I mean, that
doesn't have to be the same.
That is not a Democrat versus Republican issue when you talk about locality pay. This is a very regional issue, and if you talk to Democrats in Southern West Virginia or Republicans in Southern West Virginia, they're not going to support locality pay, whether they're supported by the teachers unions or not. So, to say that this is blaming the Democrats for 84 years of not having locality pay, well, we haven't had one vote on locality pay in 4 years. So it's not partisan.
Jason, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. I think this struggle is, in many ways,
but I think you're having this argument
regional,
with two Democrats that are actually
and Southern
for
West Virginia,
locality pay.
Southern West Virginia's control of this state. You don't have to call it, although it turned out it was largely Democratic, but that's what.
So this is not. I'm turning mics down now because I got to get this stuff in here. You pick it up after the 9 o'clock hour. This segment of the show is brought to you by L.A. Roberts Jewelers, committed to excellence in quality design and craftsmanship. In historic downtown Martinsburg, the Department of Corrections has thrown this out. There are 22 state senators, not 23. And typically you grind your axe and you gore your ox. So those are things we needed to clean up here before the break comes. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. It's 9 o'clock.
CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Good news on the jobs front. Economist Gus Fauché.
This is a very solid report. So we had job gains of 223,000 in May. The unemployment rate fell to 3.8%. That's the lowest it's been in about 18 years.
People were making a little more. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
There was good news on wages. They were up 2.7% from a year ago, and that's slightly better than economists had forecast. It is below the pre-recession levels that we saw of wage increases, but with inflation still pretty much contained, this is a good number.
S&P futures are up 14. Europeans are about to pay more for everything from American blue jeans to rice and big bikes. The EU has just detailed its response to new U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum.
EU Trade Commissioner Cecilia Malmstrom calls the tariffs a worrying situation.
The U.S. is playing a dangerous game here.
She says the EU must take rebalancing measures and impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, including peanut butter, cranberry juice, and red state products such as Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Kentucky bourbon. She says the U.S. tariffs are hindering the global recovery. Allison Keyes, CBS News, Washington.
French President Emmanuel Macron says he spoke to President Trump after yesterday's announcement and told him the tariffs are a mistake. Canada and Mexico have already imposed levies on U.S. products. From talks in New York aimed at getting a summit back on track to Washington, D.C. CBS's Stephen Portnoy says President Trump is expecting a visitor.
The senior North Korean official is due here at the White House to hand-deliver a letter to the president from Kim Jong-un. Secretary Pompeo wouldn't say when asked yesterday whether the Singapore summit is officially back on, but he did say the conditions for the denuclearization talks are now being set. He says the meeting will only take place if there's a sense it will bear fruit.
An assistant district attorney has joined police at a home in Springfield, Massachusetts this morning, where the search continues after those policemen found 3 bodies on the property. Neighbors say they had no idea.
It started out with two cop cars, and then next thing you know, the whole street was filled with detectives.
Stuart Weldon was arrested on kidnapping and sex assault charges after a car chase. A passenger thanked police for saving her life. She said Weldon had been holding her captive for a month. Can you spell koinonia? 14-year-old Karthik Namani did. He is the winner of the Scripps National Spelling Bee and goes home to McKinney, Texas with $40,000. He spelled koinonia, which is another word for Christian fellowship. This is CBS News.
Zoom video conferencing, featuring video and audio clarity with screen sharing. Free accounts are available at zoom.us. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Are you a small business owner in need of cash to fund payroll, buy new equipment, or expand your business? Has your local bank turned you down? Have you been told no when you really need to hear yes? Get cash to run your business right now. Just call Strategic Funding and get a yes today. Call 800-211-7805. That's 800-211-7805. If you've been in business for at least 1 year, have annual revenue of $150,000 or more, Strategic Funding can provide you with up to $500,000. Our unique financing service will get you the cash you want with flexible payment plans, personalized to fit your specific needs. Call now, 800-211-7805. That's 800-211-7805. Growing your business just got a whole lot easier with a strategic funding approval in as little as 1 day. For a free no-obligation quote, call 800-211-7805.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. It's his third strike, so he'll get life. 41-year-old Alan Gaskins of Cape and Bridge got a life sentence after his latest conviction for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon back in March in Jefferson County. His other two convictions were in 1997 and 2002, both for drug crimes which took place near a school. Shepherd University professors and students will conduct research for the U.S. National Park Service thanks to a 1-year, $56,000+ contract with the C&O Canal National Historical Park. 3 university professors will work on the project, which will focus on the African American experiences at Ferry Hill, Blackford House, and the Bridgeport community. They'll develop a historic structures report for Blackford House and a historic resource study supplemental report for Ferry Hill Plantation. They'll also have to sift through NPS archives and conduct research at the University of Virginia, among other places. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We've got a summery southerly wind flow and temperatures well above average to kick off the month of June. Showers and thundershowers in the forecast too, and maybe some big strong downpours later in the afternoon. The winds coming in from the south and the southwest at light speeds, and our forecast high all the way up to 88 degrees as we catch some breaks in the clouds from time to time here during the day and some partial sunshine, at least for a while. Clouds overnight, showers taper off, especially after midnight with lows in the upper 60s. And then for the day Saturday, a slow-moving cool front, showers and thundershowers in the area all day long pretty much, and a high in the upper 70s. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
The future doesn't wait. Why should you? Blue Ridge Community and Technical College offers over 50 degree and certificate programs in education, IT, culinary arts, engineering, and so much more. Small class sizes, flexible schedules with evening and online classes, with affordable tuition, plus financial aid is available to those who qualify. Now you can go to college. Visit us online at blueridgectc.edu. That's blueridgectc.edu. Stop waiting and enroll today.
It's time for your Berkeley County Health Department summer food safety tips. We're talking with Caryl Harding about how long we can leave grilled meat outside in the summer.
Shouldn't be out longer than 4.
4 hours is our point. Now, what if it's in room temperature in the house? You grill it outside, you bring it inside. We still have 4 hours?
Yes, because it's not maintained at hot holding temp or cold holding temperature on cold items. Anything that sits in what we call the danger zone there, that temperature in between, and that's when bacteria will start to grow.
Have a safe summer from the Berkeley County Health Department. Find out more at bchealthdept.org.
Will Greer to David Sills is a winning combination WVU fans know well.
Greer throwing toward the end zone. Ball caught. Post pattern. Sills. Touchdown. David Sills hauls it in.
The Mountaineers, Talk Radio WRNR, and your business is a dynamic combination like no other. Contact our station to add your company to the coverage of the great tradition of West Virginia Mountaineer football and basketball. Heard right here on Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports radio station.
Welcome back to the show, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, and the whole Friday group is in today. This segment brought to you by the Washington Nationals. And what is it, June 1 here? So here we go. The Nats battle a pair of Bay teams from different coasts as the Tampa Bay Rays and San Francisco Giants visit Nationals Park, catch the return of the Buffalo June 5th and 6th, then see the Giants over the weekend June 8th through June 10. Visit nationals.com today. 304-263-6540 and 304-263-6586. Our telephone numbers if you'd like to be a part of the program today. Hey, let's get to the Supreme Court in the state of West Virginia, because there's certainly been enough dug up by Kenny Bass of WCHS-TV in Charleston about misuse of funds, maybe some unethical use of state vehicles. There's been a lot written about that. We're all very familiar with the $32,000 couch by now, so let's move past that onto some of the new things that they found and what the repercussions of this will be. Mike Caryl, I know you as a person who is an attorney, typically when we speak to attorneys about this, they're very hesitant to comment negatively on state Supreme Court justices for fear of putting their own clients in a difficult situation going forward.
Until they retire.
Yes, I'm pretty independent, but I'm not going to speculate either. When former Chief Justice, now just Justice Lawfrey, went off the step down, or was voted down from being the Chief Justice, he had a statement out about a federal investigation, and it sounded pretty ominous, and none of the transgressions, sort of sloppy records and a little bit of personal benefit to some spending and that type of thing, none of that is the kind of thing that you would expect of a federal investigation. It sounded ominous. And then more recently, in the last few weeks, there was this report about that there'd been some payroll tax issues, IRS kind of things. They're totally routine, who's an employee, who's an independent contractor, not again. And I thought, for some reason when he was stepping down, Lawfrey was trying to make an IRS audit sound like a federal investigation, make it sound worse than it really was. Well, that's come and gone, and so far there's no official indication of any result of a more serious criminal investigation by the FBI or anybody on that side of things. So I'm still completely in the dark. There's all kinds of rumors about things, but I'm not going to repeat those.
Jason, what do you know?
Well, I think Mike is right about some of the stuff with Justice Lawfrey. There's the issue of not only the couch, but the Cass Gilbert antique desk that was in the court forever that he had taken home. He says that he's entitled to a home office, which I believe is true. I don't know that you get to furnish that with antique desks from the Capitol. And one of the things that after he realized that this was a problem, or somebody made issue of this, that it's my understanding that the furniture was moved back to the Capitol at the expense of the taxpayers. So there was government money used to to pay a moving company or employees of the state to load the desk back up, put it on a truck, and take it back to the Capitol. So if that's true, it doesn't seem to me that he learned his lesson or realizes that is a misuse of taxpayer dollars. Some of the issue with Justice Ketchum, one of the reports, and again, you can say this is a rumor, this is an accusation. I don't think there's any concrete evidence of this yet, but one of the things is that he wrote a book, some law book or some kind of magazine or something that he wrote, and that state dollars were used to pay someone in Las Vegas to make sure that the grammar was okay and to proofread and these type of things, and the state paid her salary, but the book, the proceeds from the book went directly to him. So if this was if he was doing this on his own for whatever personal venture he was doing, and he collects the money for that, then that's fine. But you can't have state taxpayer dollars paying the employee to do some of the work on the book. So that's something that's going on. Obviously, there's been accusations of Justice Ketchum regarding misuse of vehicles and these type of things. And I think it's pretty apparent here that the court doesn't have there isn't the oversight on the court that is absolutely required. I think this is going to come come down to maybe a couple of resignations or maybe an impeachment. Rob, as you probably remember, Mike Pushkin and I and others in the House suggested that in the beginning of the session that the House of Delegates move forward with investigating of whether we need to do impeachment or not. And I think that's a real possibility. I think that's probably what we should be looking at doing. But there's a lot of rumors that Justice Menace Ketchum is going to resign in the very near future.
How long has this been going on? Does anybody have any idea? I mean, I'm going to
You mean the practices or the knowledge of it?
The practice. I mean,
I'm sure it's been.
I think the acknowledgement is probably new, but I'm sure it's cultural.
I'm sure things like this have been going on for decades.
I wonder if it's because not anytime, but most times I would imagine that once you get to the Supreme Court level, you win an election or are appointed to that level, most attorneys are going to take, out of private practice, are going to take a pay cut. Would that be true? Out of their private practice, in order to take a job, a public job like that, most lawyers who are making, I'm making this up, $300,000 or more a year, and now go to the bench at the Supreme Court and are making half that a year. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if they find ways like this to live the life they were living before by supplementing, the nice furniture, and it becomes a cultural thing, and I think they feel entitled to that.
I don't think that they're trying to make up their salary, because my understanding, most of them are pretty wealthy to begin with.
Or to maintain the lifestyle that a salary affords.
Well, I think it's more of arrogance, and it's entitlement. I think that's the word you use. I think is the most accurate, is that they're entitled to do that. I think Justice Lawfrey thinks he's entitled to take that antique desk home with him if he wants to have a home office, that they can drive around the state cars whenever they feel like it. I think it's an entitlement and an arrogance.
I agree with Jason. Write that one down.
It's happening more and more.
Yeah, you've done a lot today.
Particularly,
it's Sammi and I against everybody else.
With the current court. I mean, the three ladies on the court. One of them's a former law partner of mine. Are very affluent in terms of their family, wealth. Menace was a successful, so he clearly took a big pay cut to become judge. But typically, they only do it after they've done well and put away a nice nest egg and can afford, they know the low. So I really agree that it's a broader arrogance and lack of accountability to anybody. And this budget amendment, I mean, if there was ever an amendment that we should have taxed them, like education reform.
So that's why the one guy kept the proceeds of the book to himself, because it was arrogance and not any kind of need for.
It's just lack of feeling of accountability.
So what's the 6 figures worth of gift cards for then? There's 529 gift cards on this report worth $105K. What does that do?
I don't know anything about that, and I didn't hear anything about the Las Vegas connection with Ketchum, but maybe now the picture's starting to clear up, and there's something involved with Blankenship, and that his.
I want to go back to Jason's point about impeachment. I think that, and I'm going to put myself in this category, and I think a lot of voters would be too. I think if the legislature doesn't start impeachment, if nothing else happens, I think that shame on the legislature. I think it's incumbent upon them. I think it's the responsible thing to do at this point in time. And, of course, the Democrats have nothing to say about that, because they're a minority of 34 in the House. 36 in the House and 22 in the Senate. Right, Rob?
12. We have 36 and 12.
36 and 12. Well, I meant there's 22 Republicans.
Right, you're right.
So I want to get my math right.
Absolutely. Well, and there's a grand jury. There's a potential for an indictment of one of the justices. So I think that as long as that's continuing to go on and the federal investigation is going on, I don't think there's quite the pressure on the legislature to do impeachment. But we should have been looking at this during the regular session, because we knew these things were coming out, and leadership kind of ignored it. I mean, there's no question that people know that Alan Lawfrey is a Republican and Menace Ketchum is a Democrat. They can run as nonpartisan. These are nonpartisan elections now, but every member of the legislature and there are people that are in that Capitol know what political party each person is in.
Rob reminds us of this point all of the time, as he should, and that is there are so many lawyers in the legislature who are reluctant to do this sort of thing. Is that becoming less and less of an issue now, do you think, as time goes on?
I think it has to. I mean, and there are a lot of members of the legislature that are attorneys, and that's why those of us that are not attorneys tried to take the lead, call for the impeachment. Now, in the resolution calling for impeachment, there were no members that were attorneys in that, but that's where there's a reason that all 134 of us aren't attorneys. I think that we really should have taken the lead on that, and we should have looked at the impeachment. But I think as long as this grand jury and this federal investigation is going on, the pressure to the legislature isn't there at this point.
What ultimately happens here? Nothing or something?
Oh, I think something.
Something has to happen, or people lose faith in their government.
And I would think that this, going back to scorecards again, this could show up on someone's scorecard, on a pro-business scorecard, I would think. I
would not want to be in charge of running either of their re-election campaigns for anyone.
When are they
up
Supreme
again? Court. I don't know that. They're 12-year terms.
I think
Ketchum is coming up soon.
Yeah, Ketchum is near
20, I believe.
Yeah, but Lawfrey was just elected not that many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Using public funds, I would note, in a an authorized scheme that later when Brent Benjamin ran for re-election, he elected. He opted into that system as well. But
as a former campaign media consultant, I would hate to be the one to have to craft a message for either one of them.
You're right. And
not want a fun campaign to run against. I would not want that
and
job.
Not only that, the other members of the court and the bar, the board of governors of the bar, the organized legal community will put pressure on the justices who are in the crosshairs, because the respect for the court, I mean, that's all they have to deal with or to trade with. That's their only power. If people lose confidence in the integrity of the court, then the system fails.
I would advise them to do this on their own money. I would advise them, any one of these ones that are in trouble, to buy television and radio time throughout the state. On television, just go on the camera, introduce yourself, and apologize to the people of West Virginia and say, I own this. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'm going to pay this money back, and I'm not going to do this again.
I agree with you. I mean, that's the best they could do.
That's the best they could do.
In the case of Lawfrey, where there's so many years till he gets reelected, this is bound to blow over between now and then. Ketchum, who might be, I guess you said, closer, maybe in 2 years, this is probably not as effective a strategy. He's probably the sacrificial lamb here if he survives the investigations, at least, anyway.
Well, and Justice Ketchum is significantly older than Justice Lawfrey. So
who's the one with the map on the floor? Which one is that?
Lawfrey.
Lawfrey,
okay. Yeah.
That he claims he knew nothing about. So there's just it's the wood floor. There's an outline of all the counties, and his county is a different piece of wood or something, or granite or something that stands out to indicate that it's his. And he claims.
And if it were you, I would expect Berkeley County to be.
There's
like
no
that.
chance of me ever becoming a Supreme Court justice, so you don't have to worry about it.
But maybe governor.
No, David.
He hesitated just enough to tell you that it's going through his mind.
Could be.
Well,
I mean, I've thought of it.
A Democrat governor from the Eastern Panhandle will be better than a Republican governor from Mingo County.
Well,
there you go.
We're back to that.
There you go. There's your ad. There's your ad, dude.
If he's as long as his name doesn't last name start with a U.
I want to ask a question about state vehicles, and I'm going to ask you to keep this as nonpartisan as possible. I really would just want an answer. I don't want to know.
I want one. Is that the question?
I don't want to know what the blame is here. But we talked to Jason Huffman earlier this week. He talked about the difficulty in trying to find out how many state vehicles are out there, and this has been going on for a while. And he said part of the difficulty has to do with how these were used over the years for graft, essentially, political favors and whatever. And there are state license plates that are sitting in file cabinets, he says, with no vehicle attached to them, where the state is on the hook for registration fees, possibly car insurance fees may be associated with those as well. And we don't know how many of these are out there, and this is what makes it so difficult. When we talk to Republicans, they tell us it has become very difficult to get information from these departments to freely flow to them to try to investigate this and find out what the real answers here, what the true number of vehicles would be. Jason, can you tell me, what are the options the legislature has to really get to the bottom of this? And let's take out who's to blame in 80 years of this and 4 years of this. I just want answers.
Well, it reminds, when you're kind of setting that up, it reminds me of during the Finance Committee, we have these small kind of groups that meet with the various agencies to talk about their budget. And they are very hesitant to give us a lot of this information because they're concerned about budget cuts, and they defend every line item. And they're really reluctant, for the most part, to say, we can take a budget cut here or there, or, we have all this extra money in special revenue that could be swept. So I really think, to some degree, it is on the administration. It's on the governor's office, who hires all the secretaries, is responsible for the department heads, agency heads. Is the governor needs to say to all the agencies, we need to find this out. You need to have an audit. To go to every secretary and say, we need to have an audit of all these vehicles and every agency, find out how many license plates are in filing cabinets. The legislature, we can bring people in committee, we can put them under oath, and I guess grill them about how many license plates they have here or there. But at some point, I think the chief executive has to take ownership of this for these state agencies and make sure that an audit is done and we find out where all the vehicles are, where all the license plates are, and the insurance issues.
I absolutely agree with Jason. Mark this day down.
It's happening more and more.
It's been all day. I don't know why we're marking this.
Executive. I mean, this is just another example of the bloat and waste of the executive branch of our government. The governors need to fix it. We've had Republican governors that didn't fix it, and Democrat governors that didn't. This latest dust up where they're arguing about why the federal flood relief money hasn't been distributed, and the governor's office has a nerve to point the finger at the state Senate.
Can't we FOIA? Did that happen already?
Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah. That's in fact, I think there was a FOIA. It's why we have some of the.
I think that's why it's kind of coming out.
Some of the emails.
Freedom of.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's spending other people's money. It's the philosophy that has taken hold in the government of this state for decades. And
the tragedy.
And we should have fixed it the first of the last 4 years.
The tragedy is you have people who have lost their homes in this flood 2 years ago who haven't received a cent yet, who have not been able to rebuild their homes and rebuild their lives. And at the end of all of that bureaucracy and mismanagement, that's the real tragedy.
And the irony is that the current chief executive, is based in the part of the state that was most hard hit.
Yeah, that's ironic.
Go ahead, Jason. I know what you want to say.
No.
I know you want to make a reference to the fact that he's never in Charleston, so he wouldn't.
Well, I mean, he should know what's going on in Greenbrier County.
He would know
lives
that.
There, right?
Hey, it's 9:25. It's First Friday, David Welch. And if I
love First Friday,
have my dates correct, it's your birthday too.
My birthday?
Is it?
No, my birthday was April 5th.
That's what I thought. Well, someone sent me a thing that said it's David's birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, hey, happy birthday.
Well, I'll take it. I mean, at my age, we start to slow the birthdays down a little bit. So I'm only going to have one every other year from now on, but I'm certainly not going to have two a year.
Good plan.
I'll be Mike Carl's age before you know it.
No, you'll never be my age till I die. At the same time.
I hope that doesn't. I'd like to kill you sometimes, but I mean, I hope that doesn't happen soon.
I've tried so not to give in, and I said to myself, this affair, it never will go so well. But why should I try to resist?
Shop Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram today and find over 150 new and used vehicles to choose from. From gas savers to SUVs to four-wheel drive trucks, all of the new and most of the pre-owned vehicles come standard with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Now you can drive away with peace of mind knowing your vehicles are covered for life. And the best part about it, there are no service requirements with Miller's, and it's all included to you at no extra cost. That's right, no extra charge, and you're not required to service with us. Just follow the manufacturer's recommendations, and you're covered for life. With great quality vehicles and a great price, you can't miss with Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Our courteous, experienced, and professional staff is waiting to assist you with finding the perfect vehicle that fits all of your needs. Unbeatable deals and excellent financing is right down the road. Stop in today. Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Route 9 and Kelly Island Road just east of Martinsburg, or online at MillerChryslerJeep.com. Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
This is Joe Ferretti of Hammer, Ferretti & Schiavone. The laws are changing drastically in West Virginia, and more than ever, you'll need an attorney with a reputation and a history of good results handling your personal injury claim. At my law firm, each attorney has at least 28 years of experience winning cases. Ask about our reputation and history of proven results. We know these comparisons will convince you to call Hammer, Ferretti & Schiavone at 264-8505. Call for a free meeting to discuss your case. And of course, you can find us on the web at hfslawyers.com.
L.A. Roberts is Berkeley County's oldest jeweler, where every season is new and exciting. In fact, new is old school to us, and though it's nothing new, our old traditions like exceptional service, quality, and value maintain L.A. Roberts Jewelers as the old master among so many new kids on the block. Whether you're a newcomer or part of the old guard, entrust all your fine jewelry needs to L.A. Roberts, Old World Jewelers for a new age, in historic downtown Martinsburg.
Those fingers in my hair, that sly come hither stare, that strips my
This segment of the program brought to you this morning by Bechtel Jewelers, West Virginia's largest Pandora retailer, Route 11 South Inwood, next to Viva Mexico. And just a little note on next week on Tuesday in the 9 o'clock hour. We've talked a lot about the sportsbook betting in the state and how West Virginia is ideally suited to actually getting that passed and in place in time for the NFL season at, September, I suppose it is. Jason, we'll have a gentleman on Tuesday at 9 o'clock who is completely opposed to government-sanctioned gambling. That would include sportsbook betting. We're going to get the other side of this story.
And that would include
in the 9 o'clock hour
configuration as well, all gambling.
Absolutely. All
so is that Speaker Armstead?
No, it's not. It's not a member of the legislature.
You took my line. He's against gambling, or he's against
government sanction?
So he's for illegal gambling,
he's for making it illegal.
He wants to go back to the bookie days.
What his point is that the government should not be endorsing gambling as a way of prying money from taxpayers to balance the budget.
I think we need to have that point of view on. I think it's a legitimate point of view, and I'm glad we've got him booked.
Les Bernal is his name.
There was a column, a Cal Thomas column in the Journal today on that very point of view.
He is the national director of the Stop Predatory Gambling Association. Les Bernal. He'll be on Tuesday at 9 o'clock to get the other side of the story. And I believe both David and I are in favor of legalized gambling, and I am on the libertarian side of me says it's my money. I should be able to do with it what I want without you telling me I can't.
I, as a native, as a third-generation Nevadan, and I've seen so many of my family members and friends, just lives really affected, if not destroyed, by the temptation to gamble. And it's always kind of colored my opinion of legalized gambling generally. I'm not saying I'm against it, here and at all, and I favor the sports betting as I favored the expansion into table games a few years back, simply because if you're going to sanction one form of gaming, why not sanction it all? In other words, don't pick winners and losers. I'm kidding, of course.
Good point.
If you're going to have the machines and the poker machines or whatever, then let them play 21 as well. It's not I'm endorsing gaming per se, but I don't. Once you have a little bit of it, let it all fly.
Well, and the other issue is that when it's state run, there's specific payouts that have to be met. Before the legalization of the LVL machine, the slot machines that we have in West Virginia, there were gray machines everywhere, and they didn't pay out at the rate that the current machines pay. So, and you talk about sports betting, and you can go to a lot of local establishments here in the Eastern Panhandle all over the state and get a football card, and where if you pick 3 and win 3, you win $4 for every one. If you pick 4 and win 4, you win $10 for every one. I mean, those are extremely difficult to win. The payout structure, the prize matrices of those are not as fair as legal sports betting. So, I think that you can make the case that if you're against gambling, you're against gambling, but having it state run and monitored makes it far more fair to the player than the illegal betting that's going on.
Does it also fit into kind of that category too, where everyone's doing it, so you might as well organize it as a state activity and make money from it? I mean,
everybody's going to do it.
Exactly. I mean, if you just shut down gaming tomorrow, believe me, there's still going to be 1 million people on the first NFL weekend or whatever it might be betting.
And the point is that if it's legal in Nevada, how can it not be legal in West Virginia? And the Supreme Court finally got
on the sports betting.
On the sports betting.
Sure, I think they have that right. That's a state right. And I applaud the legislature, by the way, for being on top of this.
And I didn't, I've never been around the gambling addiction to the extent that you apparently have. So I'm not as concerned as your experience makes you, but it's anything that's taken to excess, overeating healthy food can be ultimately bad for you. And so I God, this is a record. I agree with Jason again, about, that at least there's some state oversight and I just really don't understand the concern, the level of concern that, these anti-gambling folks, and it's not like narcotics. I mean, and of course, I've been around, narcotics addiction, and to me, they're entirely different animals, and the governmental responses should be very different.
When I was a little boy, one of the memories I have of my grandmother was she loved to go play they were all wooden machines back then, and she loved to go play these nickel machines. And you have to pull the handles back then. And I don't know how old she was when I was 7, 8, 9, or 10, when my memory occurs here, but she was voracious in pulling that handle back and forth. And so, I've had not that she's not one of the ones that destroyed her life. She was a maid at a hotel, so she didn't have a lot of money to spend.
Well, gambling is a tradition, a global tradition in many societies. We had betting, on horse betting, official, sanctioned and all totally fine. What possible substantive difference is there between the lottery, sports betting, table games?
Well, that was my point in saying that sports betting should be legalized.
Yeah.
If we have everything else, the next logical thing would be sports betting. That's when we started having this conversation in this show about 3 years ago. That's why it's going to be called the
Rob Mario Bill.
Thank you. Hey, Ken is on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Good morning, Kenny.
Good morning. Hey, I think one thing I think needs to be addressed or just looked into in regards to the bill and nationally is that I don't think we'll have a Black Sox moment because I think the players are getting paid a lot of money, and I don't think that's going to be big of an issue.
Fair point.
I think where the issue would come into is officiating.
Well, we saw that in the NBA already.
Oh, we saw that in the first Caps game in Las Vegas. So, I mean, you're going to have referees miss calls. It happens. I mean, everybody's human. But now you got people betting $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, and the ref makes a bad call or doesn't make a call at all, and someone loses that much money. And, what type of organizations or people are going to take matters in their own hands? And that's where I think the officiating is going to be really, really, I think, should be really looked at and or protected because, I mean, like I said, you have human beings trying to make rule calls.
Maybe I'm missing your point here, Ken, but you're saying now that sports betting would be legalized, the pressure on officials and the reaction of people who lose money would be greater than when it was illegal?
Well, no, I think, one, the safety of the officials.
Well, how is that any different than what it is now?
Well, because now you have money. Well, here you get now a lot of people are going to get involved. Well, I mean, it could be allowed illegally, but now that it's legal, now it opens up to people like who may want to bet on it and bet, organizations that are more open now. I'm trying to figure out where I'm trying to make this more clear, but I just think that now that, like you said, the players are getting paid more money. Now I think the more pressure is going to be on the officiating, the rules calls, because. Well, I just think that more money is going to be missed. More money is going to be lost, and basically more people get kind of more mad and take matters in their own hands in regards to officials.
I don't want to give away too much of my background, Jason, so go ahead and answer.
Well, I mean, when Ken started talking about officiating, I thought he was going to take this down a different path, that maybe some of the officials, could be bought or bribed,
could be profiting, yeah.
Right, that their integrity could be compromised. Obviously players that are making $10, $12, $15, $20 million a year, you're probably not going to buy, you're not going to get them to throw a game. But officials, I think, probably make around $100,000 a year or so in the NFL and MLB. So that's where I thought you were going to take that. Do you see that as a concern?
Yeah, I was trying to get to that point just a little bit, but I kind of got thrown off to another tangent. But yeah, it's like I said, with the players, when I came up to it, you want to have a Black Sox moment, but now that we have an officiating, more money can be had with those guys than it would be the players, and that could affect the game.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think that a lot of folks that are not all that familiar with sports betting don't realize is that there are a lot of wagers on who's the final outcome of the game, but there are so many in-game bets. There are bets that, for example, in the Super Bowl, who wins the coin toss? Is the next play a run or a pass? Who gets the next first down? I mean, there's so many in-game bets that are constantly going on that officials probably don't have a great impact on. But we tend to just focus on the final outcome and covering the spread and that type of thing. But there are so many in-game bets as well.
True. Well, that was pretty much it. Sorry it wasn't more clear. So still early for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good. Have a good one, guys.
My point on that would have been, I would think officials would be safer with legalized gambling than the way it has been controlled for 100 years.
I just want to know why Jason knows so much about
I think we know why Jason
betting.
knows so much.
Well, as you know, I went to Miami and to a gambling conference before we wrote.
It's the same reason you know a lot about marijuana.
I don't know a lot about
marijuana conference.
I know a lot more about gambling than I do, or sports wagering than I do marijuana. I'll promise you that. But it was an issue that was really important in West Virginia, and if you're going to, if you're going to have a role in drafting legislation and advocating for it, you better know what you're talking about.
See, Sammy, how quick he is. When you get that good,
I mean, he knows the spin for
sure.
Yeah,
he does. He's very good.
He's a spinner, all right.
Yeah.
Hey, it's 9:39. Excuse me, losing my voice here.
Jason's a
fidget spinner. Did you hold that up on camera so everybody could see you playing with your fidget spinner there? Very nice.
I can't believe you haven't taken it away from me today.
I didn't even notice you were playing with it until now.
I don't think he was. Until it became a Barrett reference.
He likes to take all my toys away, so.
That's the only thing that keeps you from doodling during the show, at least, anyway.
Oh, I've been the worst today.
Yeah, I don't even have paper in front of me.
Total doodleage. When's the next session for the legislature?
Whenever the governor calls us back in. We have interims, I believe, around the 25th of June. Whether the governor calls us in for a special session, I haven't heard. In May, I mean, it was, he made the call fairly late. Some of the bills that were on the call weren't really ready yet, and special session becomes rushed, in my view, a lot because we're trying to get into town, get out of town, because we are aware of the $35,000 a day cost that it costs the taxpayers for us to be in special session, and that's why we try to do it during interims, because that cost, the state's already incurring that cost. But at the same time, we're passing, especially if it's cleanup bills, that's one thing. If we're passing significant legislation that is a new bill and a new idea, I really don't like trying to rush in and rush out, because it's important. I don't know that we get to vet the bill as thoroughly as we should. So,
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. We had Dale Lee on earlier this week, the president of the West Virginia Education Association, when we talked to him about salaries and teacher movements around the country and the next step in West Virginia. And we asked about a 5% raise being the starting point for the next request for teacher raises. I thought he implied, David, that that's where we begin. And it won't be less than that. It could be more, but 5 was at least the minimum they were looking for.
Yeah, I think he made 2 points, and that was one of them. I think the other key point that he made was that in response to my question about will the teachers be organized around Democratic candidates who they have more trust in, or will the Republicans get credit for, at the end of the process, actually coming in and supporting the 5% raise? Dale Lee, I think, seemed to indicate that, yes, we are going to go for another 5%. We think we have public support behind us. And, yes, we will remember in November those who were with us from the beginning and those who weren't. And I think that was really the case that he made. To what degree they have an impact, maybe Sammy, Mike, others might have a thought on that. At this point, I don't see an impassioned teachers group going out there in October and campaigning for the Democratic candidates or Republicans who they might have thought supported them, but I might be wrong about that. I think they got what they wanted, and they're not going to be all that energized.
Well, I don't know that they've completely got what they wanted. There is a PEIA task force, but
that could impact things.
I don't know that there's a solution yet. I don't know that we've figured out a way other than putting the additional $50 million in to offset the increased premiums. I don't know. There's certainly some ideas in there to increase competition, and we absolutely should look at those things. But until there's a concrete plan or revenue stream to fund PEIA at a level that doesn't require premium hikes, then I don't think the teachers are going to be happy. And you may not hear them right now, but they are paying attention to this task force, and they're really going to expect something out of them before November. And I think if it doesn't happen by November, I think you're going to see them be heavily involved in the campaign.
I think it also could be an issue about it could be a general election campaign issue. Are you for or against a further pay increase next year as well? That could be a legitimate campaign issue.
I mean, I think you're seeing the PEIA task force is doing a statewide tour. So I think that's going to stoke the fire of conversation anyway, but there has been no movement. There's been nothing that's really come from PEIA, and I think we forget in this conversation often that it was less about that raise, even though the raise is important, and more about an all-encompassing benefits package, and it's simply not happening. It's also the lore in other states that are getting our teachers, especially here in the Eastern.
Yeah, we told Dale Lee that his new title now is leader of a national revolution. He really started something here in West Virginia that now has spread.
Why not Christine?
Well, no, because we happen to have him on the radio, Sammi, and so
I'm asking, Dave. I'm just asking questions.
One of the jobs of a radio talk show host is to make your guests feel good and get them at ease so they laugh a little bit like you are now. So that's all that was.
But this is my general demeanor. Dale's a little grumpier than I.
It could have been anybody. Maybe you let it. I don't know.
Well, and Dale was much easier to get on the show than Christine Campbell was.
Yeah, well, they both did. Anyway, it started here and it has spread to other states certainly. I think the big question is, do they have public support behind them? I mean, that's always, there's not enough teachers to actually go out and elect a delegate or a senator. They have to have public support
you
behind
get
them.
a couple hundred teachers in a
single member district. It's not insignificant.
Don't think they can't, right.
Yeah, it's not insignificant. Right? Yeah, they can.
But there's a lot more.
And they have lots of friends, too.
There's a lot more members of the public and teachers. I mean, there's a significant minority of the teachers who, as Sammi says, are focused on PEIA. And as long as that's out there, now I agree, if you get up close to election, they haven't, taken any concrete steps that it could change. But as long as that's out there, and then another pay raise is not something the public's going to buy, ever.
Thank you, Mike. Call 9:45 into the break we go.
Out my head, coo me, woo me, turtle dove. Can I steal a little love? Please tell me why are you driving me crazy?
Hi, this is Rob Mario. I grew up on my Sicilian grandmother's home-baked pizza. If you want home-baked traditional Italian pizza the way the Italians do it, you want Brothers Pizza. They now bake their pizza pies in a real brick oven, the old Italian country way. You see, that takes the moisture out, gives the pizza a more crispy taste. And Brothers Pizza uses only the finest and freshest ingredients. You can dine in, you can carry out, you can have it delivered. Brothers Pizza, real Italian pizza from a real brick oven. 263-3322. Dine in or delivery done right.
The Honda 4th of July sales event has brilliant deals on our most popular vehicles, like the Civic, Fit, and Pilot. It's a reason to celebrate across the country, from the Liberty Bell to Hollywood, and even back up to Niagara Falls. So come discover the 2018 KBB.com Best Overall Brand during the Honda 4th of July sales event, now at your Honda dealer.
Miller Honda, south of Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. www.mymillerhonda.com.
Based on 2018 brand image awards from Kelly Blue Book, visit kbb.com for more information.
The WVU Medicine Spring Mills office building is now open. This new 3-story, 40,000 square foot facility is conveniently located off Interstate 81, exit 20 at the intersection of US 11 and Campus Drive. The WVU Medicine Spring Mills medical office building features many different offices and services for area residents. It's now home to urgent care, women's imaging center, lab services, and primary care pediatrics. The WVU Medicine Spring Mills office building now open to serve you.
Come fly with me, let's fly away.
First Friday, you're getting the Sinatra bumper music today. It's a segment right now brought to you by Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies when it comes to your home, auto, farm, or business. We're trusted, reliable, and experienced at Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies. Be sure and check out Matt and Matt today, 5 o'clock, each weekday at 5 o'clock. Live sports talk here on Talk Radio WRNR. Rob here along with Dave, Delegate Jason Barrett, Mike Caryl, and Sammi Brown, and via the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Tom is with us. Good morning, Tom. Are you there? Oh, Steve, I'm sorry. I thought it was Tom. Steve is on the line. Steve, go right ahead.
Hey, good morning, Rob and Dave, and distinguished panel. How are you all?
Great, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I just had a thought concerning, a lot of the issues with labor, and I know Sammy's on, and the recent action by our president to reduce the 100% official union time for the federal government. I know that conservatives in Congress have tried unsuccessfully for years to restrict official time, and this administration, which says that the work of public employee unions should not be heavily subsidized by taxpayers, estimates that by reducing this practice to 25%, it will save taxpayers as much as $100 million a year. And I think that's probably a very conservative savings. So just wanted to kick it out to the group and see your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Mike?
I'm not sure what he's referred to as official time. In other words, is that time that public employees who are a member of a public employees union spend on union activity?
Steve?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you for...
For instance, in most of the federal facilities in this area, the union president or presidents have 100% official time. So if they are being paid for a job, for instance, if they're a $150,000 a year pharmacist, they're not practicing pharmacy. They are 100% official union time.
I was afraid that's what you were referring to, and from my point of view, that just proves that FDR was right, that public employee unions are a horrible idea, period, end of story.
Fascinating.
You disagree, Sammi?
I would have to disagree. So for one, as far as your union time or you being a representative of the organization, yeah, I mean, if you are supposed to be the president of that union or you're supposed to be a staff of that union, then yes, it's 100% union time. But you get a salary, and that's your rate of pay. There's a benefits package, and there is that lump salary that you are afforded annually. As far as the rest of it, though, I mean, are you looking for time and a half? Like, what is it that you're looking for here? Is it the people that are underneath that are being represented by the union? Because at that point, part of your dues that goes to you is going to your arbitration or your advocacy if something were to happen to you in the workplace.
I think what I got from Steve's question is that if you're the head of a union, he gave the example of the pharmacists union, who are federal employees, that if you're the president, you can continue receiving your whatever salary you get and whatever benefits you get from the taxpayers to do nothing but run that union and not do what the federal government hired you to do. I think that's his question.
I mean, if you're...
I know it's shocking, and that's why...
Does that really happen?
That's why FDR was against it, but that's exactly what he's saying.
I'm all where I disagree with you. I mean, I generally support labor unions. I think that they serve their purpose, both in the public and private sector. I'm not anti-union. I was against the right to work vote that the Republicans passed through in the legislature in this state. I don't think that works. That's my own personal opinion. I'm entitled to it, and Mike can call me a rhino if he wants.
Right.
But I totally agree with Steve and Mike that if the practice is going on where just because you're a union official that my taxpayers are paying 100% of your salary and benefits, I think that's completely wrong. I mean, that's way out of bounds, and I'm kind of surprised to hear that, Steve. If you're still on the line, I've never heard that before.
I haven't either, and I will say that within your agreement that you have a line item of what your day is supposed to look like. You have a qualifier, you have a job description, like you are supposed to meet those tasks, and so if you are meeting those tasks, then you are afforded your due pay. I can't imagine that there's a complete misappropriation of funds here, but if you can give me a very specific example, I'm happy to address it.
Steve?
Well, actually, I'm not totally current with what is going on at the VA hospital, but when I was at the VA hospital, there were 3 unions: the NFFE, the non-professional union, the professional union, and the nurses union. So those 3 unions.
Mm-hmm.
And all 3 union presidents were 100% full-time. And their vice presidents were 25 or 50% full-time. And whenever they were not available, then one of the stewards or one of the other union officials would go from their duties and work with employees. So it was basically an endless feed of hours that went to the union.
And you're saying that they didn't. Your issue with this is that you felt like they didn't serve the patients there at the VA. Is that your main concern?
If in fact they're doing 100% official union time, no, they're not. Okay. Just as an aside, most of the employees at government facilities do not pay dues. Sure. Although, because there is a bargaining unit, they are members of the bargaining unit. So
Right.
This is fully subsidized by you, the taxpayer.
I mean, you do exactly. So when it comes down to your dues, I mean, you have to opt in. By no means are we just taking money out of your paycheck. Also, I am not an affiliate of any of these unions, so by no means should I be advocating for any of the individuals or the employees or even the organizers that may have been working within the VA hospital.
Well, they are all under AFL-CIO.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that I am not, again, I am not the nurses union. I am not a nurse in that capacity. So what I can say is the short answer here is that if, in fact, that kind of misappropriation is happening, I wouldn't agree with it. However, I have never been alerted to that kind of thing before where that taxpayers are responsible for those individuals and their pay, and then they're not going to serve the individuals that they are set to do.
Steve, did you get your answer you were looking for?
Well, again, I just wanted to throw it out for discussion. There are thoughts on both sides, and thank you very much for taking my call.
Appreciate your call. Steve calling on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. A couple of minutes left in the program here today, 304-263-6540 and 304-263-6586. The telephone number's there. Barrett, you were remarkably quiet during that conversation.
Well, I've never been a member of a labor union. It's news to me, so it's I don't want to comment on something that I'm not overly familiar with. But Rob, did he say that it was 100% official time? Did he say it'd be reduced by 25% or to 25%? Did you catch that?
I think he wasn't. I think if I'm catching all of this of Steve's conversation, there's individuals that are full time under the union, and then you had individuals that are doing half
25 to 50% is what I thought what his point was with the fraction there.
So what he's suggesting is that what's in the tax plan will reduce that to 25%. So no one can have more than 25% official time for the union.
Is that what you caught, Mike?
I thought it was being just reduced
by 25.
By 25.
Okay, that was what
I could be wrong about that, but it's $100 million. I think was the figure he used. It's pocket change in Washington, but it's a lot to the rest of the taxpayers.
It's enough to run the government for what, an hour?
I mean, I do have a lot of questions.
It's a savings. I mean, do you take it? You definitely take it.
Well, the principle to establish the principle is probably as important as the $100 million.
Sure.
Well, I think we need to understand. I have a lot of questions simply because I know that there is a distinct difference between individuals that are represented by the union and individuals that are union staff. So if I, for instance, work for the AFL-CIO, which was my past career, I am paid by the AFL-CIO. I am a representative. I'm an organizer. Right. I was the field director.
And that's fine. That's legitimate.
Exactly.
That's paid out of the dues.
That's
exactly.
totally legitimate.
Absolutely. And so, but if I have a nurse that is represented by the nurses union, her tasks are not necessarily union organizer tasks, unless she is in fact an organizer, which wouldn't be the case. She's just merely being represented by the union. So I think there's a very distinct difference here. And I have a lot of questions because it's really easy to make that blanket statement, but there is a very distinct difference in tasks here. So again, I'd be interested to hear a little bit more about it. I'm open to it. I obviously don't believe in.
Well, I can imagine myself being, as a taxpayer, somewhat tolerant if, 5% of their time was devoted to, I'm just throwing that out there. I mean,
Right.
you'd expect in a 40-hour week, if you're a union official in any job, that maybe a couple of hours of that is to handle some kind of union responsibility. But outside of that, it should be beyond the 40 hours.
I can't imagine, though.
My long ago exposure to any of this was in context of industrial unions and steel plants, basically. And clearly, shop stewards and active leaders of unions were, on the job making steel and advancing the
You're bringing to the service the difference, I think, between labor unions like in a blue collar workplace and labor unions that are pilots and doctors and pharmacists.
Who's paying the salaries is the difference.
Yeah.
All right, get your final thoughts together. Last minute next.
Where you look tonight.
Shop Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram today and find over 150 new and used vehicles to choose from. From gas savers to SUVs to four-wheel drive trucks, all of the new and most of the pre-owned vehicles come standard with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Now you can drive away with peace of mind knowing your vehicles are covered for life. And the best part about it, there are no service requirements with Miller's, and it's all included to you at no extra cost. That's right, no extra charge, and you're not required to service with us. Just follow the manufacturer's recommendations, and you're covered for life. With great quality vehicles and a great price, you can't miss with Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Our courteous, experienced, and professional staff is waiting to assist you with finding the perfect vehicle that fits all of your needs. Unbeatable deals and excellent financing is right down the road. Stop in today. Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Route 9 and Kelly Island Road, just east of Martinsburg, or online at MillerChryslerJeep.com. Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. Final thoughts. Let's start with Jason Barrett. JB.
Hey, a big shout out to the Martinsburg Police Department and the Martinsburg Fire Department for their efforts yesterday with the weather issue on King Street.
Mike Caryl.
The Cardinals had so much luck winning last night. There's no chance they could win any of the next 3 games with the Pirates.
Sammi Brown.
I'm incredibly proud of my hometown of Charlestown. We launched our mural and our first effort in being an arts district, so big ups to Charlestown. Also, ladies, if you ever try to break into the boys' club, know that the workplace hazard is being doused with coffee.
David Welch.
I wish we had another hour on the show today to talk about Spygate, North Korea, the pardons, and Boehner saying there is no Republican Party, and we didn't get to any of that good stuff today. And I just wish we had another hour.
Have a great weekend. The Glenn Beck Show is next. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. Talk to you in 70 short hours.
CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by TheraWorks Relief.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. The unemployment rate hasn't been this